boss. Bet you didn't see that coming.
Disturb me at your own risk.
Every shot counts.
You are not fast enough to handle this combat style, Enel. I have seen better moves in my time, Orthai. Let us finish this fight quickly. Why did the bicycle fall over? Because it was too tired. Why do we fall? To learn to pick ourselves back up again, though in this alley, it seems like neither of us is planning on quitting soon. Why do robots never go on vacation? Because they are afraid they will get rusty and have a hard time charging their batteries back up. Why do fighters never play hide and seek? Because good luck hiding when your opponent knows exactly where you are standing in this digital arena. Why did the robot go to school?
Because he wanted to improve his hardware and become a little more tech-savvy for his next big fight.
Why did the cyborg go on a diet? Because he wanted to shed some hard drive weight. Why did the robot go on vacation? He needed to recharge his batteries because he was feeling a little bit rusty after working so hard all year long. Why do robots never lose at card games? Because they always have a motherboard to keep track of every single hand they are dealt. Why do scientists trust atoms? Because they make up everything.
Why did the ninja go to the arcade? Because he wanted to show everyone that he was the best at playing the ultimate fighting game.
Why do superheroes always prefer jumping over taking the stairs? Because it is a much faster way to reach the next level of the game. Why do martial artists never get lost? Because they always know how to find their way around the dojo floor with just a little bit of focus and focus. Why do they always tell you to keep your guard up? Because even the best fighters can be caught off guard when the rhythm shifts unexpectedly. Why do they call it a fighting game when the characters are mostly just talking? Because the real battle is finding enough time to actually play.
Why do superheroes always know exactly where to land after a fight? Because they have a good sense of justice and a very soft pair of boots.
Why do martial artists make such great mathematicians? Because they always know how to handle the counter and perfectly balance every single equation in the arena. Why do ninjas make such terrible fighters? I suppose it is because they never show up for the actual match until it is far too late to compete. Why do fighters always look so serious?
Because they are just trying to find the point in their day.
That is a sharp observation. I have practiced for this moment for a very long time, and I will not let you win this battle tonight. Your efforts are useless. Why do they always think they can get away with it? Maybe they just enjoy learning the hard way. Some lessons are best delivered with style. Why do fighters always wear such loud clothes to a match? Because they want to make sure they always have a smashing outfit for the final knockout. Why did the punchline cross the road to get to the other side, but it never landed because the counterattack was way too fast for anyone to handle? Why do they always bring a punch to a kick fight? Maybe they just want to see how fast they can fly across the alley. Why do we always fight like this?
Because it is the only way for me to prove that I am faster and stronger than you.
Why did the superhero cross the road? To fight for justice on the other side and make sure the city streets remain safe for everyone. Why did the bicycle fall over? Because it was too tired from the long fight out here on this cold, windy rooftop tonight. Why do they say the best defense is a good offense? I guess because you never have to worry about being hit if your opponent is already on the ground.
Why did the golfer bring 2 pairs of pants? Because he thought he might get a hole in one while playing on the course.
Why do superheroes always fight in abandoned warehouses? I suppose it makes cleaning up the mess after we win much easier for everyone involved.
Why do superheroes always fight in alleys? Because they are just looking for a little justice and a quiet place to settle their differences.
Why do fighters never get lost? Because they always know how to follow their opponents around the arena and strike when the timing is perfect. Why did the Punch get a promotion at work? Because it was always the first one to land a solid point in every single argument.
Why do fighters always carry a map when they train?
I suppose it helps them find their way back to a standing position after a perfect counter-strike.
Why do chickens cross the road? To get to the other side, but I think they are just looking for a better fighting game to play.
Why do superheroes always know the way to the secret headquarters? Yeah, I suppose it is because they have a special sense for finding their way home. Why do superheroes make such bad jokes? Because they are always trying to save the day with their punchlines.
Why do fighters always get straight to the point? Because they want to make sure they land a punchline before the match ends. Did you really think your strike would land? It is over before it even began, for my magic knows no bounds and your guard is broken now. Why did the bicycle fall over? Because it was too tired, just like all of you trying to stand up against me in this alleyway. Why do they say that fighting games are all about timing? Because the difference between a win and a loss is often just a split second.
Why do skeletons never fight each other?
Because they do not have the guts. Why do mummies have trouble keeping friends? Because they are too wrapped up in themselves. Why do they say that you should never fight a magician?
I do not know, tell me.
Because they always pull a fast one. Why do superheroes never play hide and seek? Because they are always getting caught up in their own heroic battles, even when they just want to hide. Why do we tell actors to break a leg? Because every play has a cast. Why do fighters always look for a fight in the rain? Maybe they just want to make sure their opponent really has a clean slate.
Why did the 2 fighters start arguing during their duel? Because they just could not agree on who had the better set of rules for the match.
Why do martial artists make the best detectives? Because they always know how to follow the trail and kick their way to the truth. Why do martial artists make the best software developers? I have no idea why. Because they are experts at handling sudden strikes and constant debugging. Why did the martial artist bring a ladder to the fight? Because he wanted to take his game to the next level. Why did the martial artist take a ladder to the bar? I have no idea why. Because he heard the drinks were on the house. Why do martial artists make the best detectives? Because they always know how to kick their way into a closed case and strike the perfect balance. Why did the martial artist bring a ladder to the fight? I have no idea, but I bet he was looking to take his skills to the next level.
Why did the martial artist break up with his baton? Because he said they were just hitting it off a little too hard for his liking.
Why do martial artists always make such great tea? I suppose it is because they have mastered the art of the perfect brew and always steep with honor.
Why did the martial artist take a ladder to the bar?
Because he heard the drinks were on the house and he wanted to reach them.
Why do warriors in these games never take a coffee break? Probably because they are too busy fighting over the last cup of energy drink.
Why do they always rush in without a plan? Because sometimes you just have to strike fast before your opponent even has the chance to blink. Why do you keep fighting when you know you cannot win? Because victory is not about winning, it is about testing how far I can go.